I'm with Nate Smith of Absolute Machinery for our first installment of the AMEA Expert Open Onion. Let's get into the layers of this onion and get Nate's opinion, as he is the industry expert on molding and injection molding and plastics. Nate, take it away. I will put up your PowerPoint now.
Great. Okay. So about me, thank you, John. Appreciate it. Open Onion. There we go. As the PowerPoint may point out here, I've been involved with in capital equipment and valuation since 1991. And I remember going to MD&A regional meetings with Don Dettenberg at Yankee Machinery Sales, with whom I worked with. I got a job in college as a mold polisher, which is a tedious challenge, and started that as a co-op in college, and working at an injection molding shop that also had a tool shop. They kept me busy. I then was introduced to EDM machines, and I thought that was fantastic. So over the years, we started to think about starting a business in this space, and started Absolute Machinery Corporation with Mike Ortolano in 2000. In 2006, aside from selling both Charmy and Mitsubishi EDM machines, we took on a line of injection molding machines, and we opened up Absolute High TM with Glenn Frohring and Mike Ortolano. So we are now here in North America, one of the largest new and used molding machine supplier in the USA. We install between 400 and 500 new machines each year here in the United States. Absolute Machinery sells between 50 and 60 used machines individually per year, not including auctions, under Williston Asset Management, which is a division of the Absolute group of companies. The Absolute generates over $80 million in sales each year, plus. So there you go. We're going to go on. I'm here specifically to talk about plastics in the USA. Plastics products manufacturing. This is real great raw data from the plastics industry, in which Glenn Frohring is a board member, sits on the board. The revenue for 2024 was $271.8 billion in the plastics segment. Annual payroll about almost $40 billion, which is significant. Cost of materials significant, $124.9 billion, and the value added, meaning the assembly, the prowess of engineering here in the U.S. working together, about 148, maybe $150 billion. And CapEx about $8.9 billion. The current market, hey, how was 2024 for new molding machine sales? Well, the overall market is down. We've gone through various, peaks and valleys in the throughout the years. Of course, COVID was an interesting spike, believe it or not.
Yeah, I guess that's true in all of our industries. Everybody got extra money and they used it to buy equipment.
Yes, yeah, it's fascinating. So the historical average of new molding machines unit sales in the USA was about 4,000, and the current last year, approximately 2,600 machines were sold and installed. How was 2024 for used molding machine sales? Well, average to below. The supply of good used machines was low. Many molders hanging on to machines. Late model machines maintain good residual value, and more models and brands are becoming obsolete or unserviceable at a faster rate than previous generations. An example is, various brands that were very popular less than 3-4 years ago have collapsed in value because of, frankly, planned obsolescence. I look at these
Yeah,
molding
can I ask a
machines and
question on that with you? The
yeah,
planned obsolescence. I've run into, in some of my auctions, injection molders with decent brand names. I'm not going to go into them, but that things like software and things like that are just unavailable to repair or update or upgrade the machines. Is that sort of this planned obsolescence you're talking about?
yeah, I mean, it was available, the technology at the time, it was utilized to provide the best practices, the best, engineering and technology. It's almost like cell phones, John.
Yeah.
It's interesting. My brother just got rid of his flip phone on a 2G network reluctantly because they shut that network down. Now he's at an iPhone 15 and he can't believe, the ability to communicate a little bit better.
That is a big difference in between our two businesses, me and the metalworking, you and the plastics, where it seems like the controls and control support, for the most part, there are brands that aren't, but for the most part on the major brands, uh, seem to be supported and usable longer than they are in the injection molding field.
Yeah,
Is that accurate?
I believe so. I mean, we are, part of the Absolute group of companies. It's Absolute Machinery, Absolute High TN, Absolute
Mm-hmm.
Robot, and Absolute CNC Solutions. So we are in the
Yeah.
metal segment. We're familiar with that.
Yeah.
And we do sell new and used metalworking
Yeah.
equipment as well.
But
Yeah.
but so
Yeah.
you're seeing the same thing. It just seems to be kind of specific to the plastics as far as I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, how was 2024 for used injection molding machines? The average to below average. The supply of good used machines, like I mentioned to you, was
Yeah.
low.
Yeah.
Many molders are holding on. Late model machines, good resale. Many more brands are coming on the market. So we'll move on here. Recent impacts. This is all new, right? Right up to February 25th, from February 23rd to the 25th, and you can see this interesting graph that we're able to produce on the screen. The market, 2021, at the COVID time, the market was about 35% above the historical yearly average. Oversaturation of machine sales in 2021 is still affecting the current market, specifically for small medical and clean room molding machines. And the big hesitation is, what causes 2024 market results? Well, hesitation to buy before the election and high interest rates. As we move on, what's that?
I'm looking at that graph. It's very similar to what I see in the machine tool market as a whole.
Yeah, and keep in mind the machine tool market is almost 3 to 4 times bigger than the injection molding machine market. So I mean, there's some significant swings going on within industry. We are, how's 2025 been? This last quarter, we're seeing a small uptick in sales across all sectors. The tariff threats on Canada, Mexico, and of course in China have caused automotive companies to look at shifting production to the USA. Large Chinese and Asian companies are also starting to move production to the USA. Increase in automation requests from existing and new USA customers is coming in to our Absolute Robot group. So this is fascinating. Instead of a sprue picker or a 3-axis or 5-axis servo robots that we sell, we are a FANUC integrator for North America, and we're seeing significant requests for upstream and downstream automation.
The more your machine sales become true projects, as the Canadians say, instead of projects,
Yes.
Where you're almost turnkeying the production for them. I got a question then. In the molding press is a mold. Do you work with, do people come to you all the way with parts and say, hey, how do I make this part? And do you get together with injection molders, or has it not gotten to that level yet in the sale of your machines?
No, we do. We offer a full range of engineering services. One of the attributes within our company, and best kept secret at times, is we have a full engineering staff, over 12 engineers that work within our company and work globally with other engineers. And so we take a project from the infancy using our engineering group, and we have rapid prototype machines, several. So we can take an example is we had a particular application for a trunk latch for Toyota. And so the prints came to us. We actually printed the part and sent the part within 48 hours back to the customer. He walked into Toyota and said, this is what our perception is, what you want. And fortunately, he was able to get the order. So we not only assisted with mold design and procuring the mold, but also the injection molding machine, the automation, and so that worked out
so
great.
So let me straight. You took a drawing, to put it in a 3D printer and printed up a plastic part of what you're going to make. They okayed that, and with that, you actually consult with a mold making company that you partner with, and make the molds and sell the whole thing as an existing system
as a package. We try to stay away from that because we're all into just really selling injection molding machinery, CNC machinery, automation, and what have you. But at the end of the day, some companies have the bandwidth to handle that, some don't. So it's a pick and choose. Is the juice worth the squeeze, right?
I see the same thing in our market, in the machine tools, in the metalworking. It's we want to make this part, and we don't have the people with the ability to do that here. Can you do it all? And sometimes that's what you do, and we're seeing more of it. It sounds like you are too.
Yeah, I mean, we have application centers in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, Worcester, Massachusetts, as well as our facility in Ohio, and Ningbo, China. So we really have a great core team to try to make things right, and we'll work with the tool builders throughout the United States and throughout the world, to achieve the end result of really serving the customer.
All right,
the future of what's that?
Go ahead.
So the
future
of injection molding in the USA, the future looks positive for molders here in the United States. One unique advantage to the USA molders is a highly competitive cost of resin, raw materials here in the United States, which is one of the lowest in the world. We can thank the refineries in southern USA. The cost of labor in the USA is a driving reason to shift production overseas, but the cost of automation decreasing is becoming less expensive to produce in the United States. Small products like plastics, small widgets or what have you will be produced less expensively in the United States versus other countries if tariffs do continue.
Fantastic.
Brands that we know, and this is just from us, in our bandwidth of Absolute Machinery and the Absolute group of companies, we're very familiar with various brands. We have about 35 brands that are actively selling in the United States. Top machine supplier countries of origin range from Austria, China, Japan, and Germany. Some will say, okay, of course, what about Taiwan? What about South Korea? Very, very small segments contributing to the U.S. Machine sizes. Majority of brands compete in the small tonnage range, under 500 tons. And the way we look at that is think roughly a plastic part, 2 feet by 2 feet smaller. I'd like to say that's about the size of the mold, but they do get a little bit bigger. We calculate that by saying, based on the material, 2.5 tons per square inch. Medical, electrical is a commodity for these machines. Most Japanese brands are limited to the size range, the tonnage. Right now in the US, a lot of people say it's 50-50. About 60% are electric and 40% are servo-hydraulic. And servo-hydraulic is, we went through the renditions of machines going from a fixed volume pump on these machines. It's kind of like a whale giving birth underwater. You have, variable volume pumps that came out on hydraulic machines. And then the big deal I remember in the 90s was trying to integrate a variable frequency drive on these machines. So fixed pumps that worked a little bit better, variable volumes kind of fought back and forth. And it was a driving factor of energy consumption because these machines in the 70s, 80s, 90s, they consumed a fair amount of electricity. And not only with the screw and barrel, the heaters, but the pumps itself. On the large machine market, there's about 5 to 7 brands that compete. Large parts, bumpers, trash bins, pallets, etc. Automotive applications, logistics, about 30% are electric and 70 are servo hydraulic. And servo hydraulic basically means you have a servo motor with a gear pump. And it really, the decibel level is reduced significantly. And that's what the electric injection molding machines enjoy. So not only do you get a reduction of energy, upwards to 70 to 80% versus the older machines on the servo hydraulic, but also the hydraulic systems are so well tuned with hard piping and with the processes that the energy consumption is significant. I think the audible level, the decibel level is also significantly lower. I mean, you can't hear some of these machines run.
So the straight electric is the highest end, and the servo hydraulic has gotten better, but and is there there's a difference in price? Is that the deal there too?
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference in price, but that gap is closing.
Okay.
But you know, it's preference, application specific. You know, medical companies they would like to go with all electric. We do have a brand, a Xeris brand, where it's all electric, but yet with integrated hydraulics, because ultimately there's features within the molding community that they require. They require hydraulic valve gates and hydraulic core pulls. And if you do that on an all-electric machine, you're required to have what you call an external power pack. We've been able to bridge that gap working with the Germans, the Japanese, and the folks in China to mitigate that and have frankly, a machine that can do all of that and reap the benefits of integrated servo
So for a novice
power
here,
pack.
sir, for a novice here, what you said, and I think I understand, to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, the electric, 100% electric would be such a big problem because within the mold itself, there could be moving parts for within the mold, and you'd have to have an electric servo drive motor made for every one of those parts if you didn't do it with servo hydraulic in that point.
Yeah, it just gets cost prohibitive. And a lot of these tools are set up with what they call core pull. So think of core pull as like caps and closures. So you have a rack system sometimes, but you also have, you know, how do you get a threaded, you know, top off of a mold, right? You got to back those cores out, and it's kind of a twisting motion to bring them out.
I get it.
So let's move on and talk about the brands known in the U.S. market. This is my own personal internal for, for Absolute Machinery Corporation. We tend to look at these brands because we take them in on trade. We get to experience their service. We get to experience their parts availability and their costs. And so it helps us as a team to say, hey, good buy, bad buy, you know, and also the value in which we can sell these machines for. So you have Engel, Ionic brand out of Austria. They also do manufacturing in South Korea as well as in China, doing small, large machines. Arberg, a very popular brand, German clean room, high-end molding machines. Haitian, in which we represent North America. It's the most, it's the largest machine builder in the world, 10 times larger than all competitors in size. China plus global.
Yep.
We, in that sense, we provide commodity machines, automotive, high-end, small and large machines. And this manufacturer produces 50,000 new molding machines and sells them globally per year. Wow. Shibura, previously Toshiba, most popular Japanese brand, clean room, high-end molding, now only small electric machines, but they did sell a larger machine. But they specifically are in the electric field. Okay. So I have this as a Class A.
Sure.
Class B, FANUC really should be, I should have thrown that into Class A because, they go up to a certain tonnage, around 500 tons, but their sweet spot is the small machines. You have Toyo, Nisei, Sumitomo Demag, Sodic, JSW. You can see, specific brands here. Some of these brands, I call it a Rolls Royce with a two-stroke engine because the injection unit's so small. And it's really specific to the application. We're able to sell within 80% of the market we're able to serve, and then they have outliers of 10 and 10. It could be high speed, it could be small injection unit, it could be specific to the application. We go on to Class C, and I'm just saying this because of the residual values that we've experienced in our history. Krausma 5, really nice machine, high-end machine, produced in China, German origin, Ube, Boy, Millicron, Whitman. And then we have these brands here we typically stay away from, only because when we take them in on trade, it's very difficult for us to resell these for a variety of reasons.
Got it. Well, market share is a big problem. If nobody has them, it's hard to sell to them, correct?
Yeah, and then, it has to do with support. I mean, Husky has great support. However, they're very, very specific in nature to the application.
Okay.
So, that's, and some of these guys are newcomers. So again, to your point. All right. Molding machine life. How old is too old for an injection molding machine? These machines they should last around 15 to 20 years. The bigger killer of the machines is the controller no longer being supported. Like we had discussed, hydraulics can always be cleaned up and repaired. Electric can run into issues with certain drives or control panels no longer being supported. I mean, we had a machine come in that was about 15 years old, and not even going to the drives of the controller, the pump was bad. And we bought the machine for 20 grand. The pump was $18,000 to make this thing whole. So, we were going to sell it for 30 or 35. We ended up selling it for a little more because we had to put the new pump in, and that pump wasn't available. It took 3.5 months to get that pump,
They'll be looking for stuff 10 years and newer is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's again like cell phones, or cars, you get what you pay for, with both productivity, reliability, and component availability. Molding machine life, is it worth buying a used molding machine? Yes, but for the right price. Anything below 20 grand is usually not worth the risk or the cost. Again, you buy a machine, XYZ brand, it comes in. We fully test our machines before they're sent out if they're sold from our inventory, and there might be a drive that's gone. And some of these drives cost anywhere from 10 grand to 20 grand. And it's like, okay, forget it, we're scrapping the machine. Most used molding machines in the $40 to $250,000 range, very dependent upon size and configuration. What is sales proof? Unsellable. Really. Again, back to the various classes that I put together, is anything highly customized or non-standard. Molding machines are very standardized machines, that 80% window that we talked about. Any multi-color or component machines that, think of razors or toothbrushes or anything that has TPE and ABS or various materials, those are really specific to that application. The rule of
so when you say multicolor, it's what they're making, not the color of the machine itself.
That's correct. Yeah, what they're making, the product, what they're making. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4 color configurations where they have various injections units that are entering the mold at different areas and regions. And so when that machine is let's say runs its 8 or 10-year life cycle, it's not easy to resell those, unless you have a spot on, application. The other thing that we like to do is to make this, when we sell new machinery, we like to have the mold designed around the machine, not the machine designed around the mold, because that's when it gets very pricey. Machines with highly integrated automation, sometimes these machines show up and they have no guards on them, and we're trying to integrate them back into a standard machine, and it just seems to be just too cost, disadvantage regarding trying to bring that back to it's what we perceived as the original machine prior to this application. Very large 15-year-old machines. Really, they cost more than they're worth. You'll see auctions that you're like, Jesus, that's a 2,000-ton machine. It's 20 years old, just sold for 20 grand. Well, it costs another 80 to 100,000 to move it and then to install it. And so the customer finds out they're buried on a $20,000 machine, cost of $200,000 to $300,000, maybe to repair. And they're like, I should have spent the extra, $300,000-400,000 to buy a new machine. In conclusion, okay, we got, how do these tariffs affect current sales?
Sure, obviously, you're seeing them now with Haitian because it's from China, and that's right now the one that's being hit the hardest, right?
Yeah, I mean that's not correct. Haitian International is a Singapore based manufacturer with 6 regional headquarters, 5 manufacturing centers, and 9 application centers. So we are able to manufacture in Mexico as well as in Japan, in addition to China and various other parts of the world. So one of the advantages is we have components that are sourced not only in the US, but also in Europe and Japan. And so it really is truly a functional, configuration for a truly international machine to meet the customer's needs and demands. Almost all new molding machines are produced outside the USA. That's a big surprise. So any worldwide tariffs would cause every molding machine to cost more. The larger injection molding machine companies that have production lines in multiple locations throughout the world will be positioned better to handle the tariffs than the smaller suppliers. So, we're talking 2025, the spring of 2025, and this is the current state of what we're thinking here, and we'll just keep moving on.
Thank you very much, Nate.
All right,
Nate
sir.
Smith, Absolute Machinery, AMEA, MDNA. He is our expert open onion first one. Thanks.
Thanks.